You are carrying a womb that is tired of waiting.
Mama? But Mama, please, you don't know me.
I know your tears. There is a river.
River?
A river that gives children quickly.
Quickly?
Yes, my daughter, very quickly.
In our town, when people talked about Pastor Daniel and Pastor Grace Oko, they talked about them with respect. Those ones are real servants of God. Prayer works in their house. They would say, if Pastor Daniel prays for you, your case will shift. And truly, their church was growing like bush after rain. Testimonies flowed every Sunday. Sick people stood up healed, barrenness bowed for others. But there was one prayer heaven refused to answer, their own. For 12 solid years, Pastor Daniel and Grace shared the same bed, but no child ever cried inside that house. At first, Grace was strong. She believed, she declared, she encouraged herself. But time has a way of pressing someone's faith until it cracks. In the beginning, church members asked politely, "Woman of God, we are waiting for our baby dedication all." Later, the questions reduced. Then they stopped completely. That silence was worse than insults. Grace noticed how people looked at her womb before they looked at her face, how some women dragged their children closer whenever she passed, as if barrenness was contagious. She still smiled, but when she entered her room at night and locked the door, she cried like someone mourning the dead. Sometimes she would kneel and pray until her knees hurt. Sometimes she would just sit on the bed and stare at nothing. One night, she asked God a question she never believed she would ask: "Am I still your servant or just your example?" But she got no answer. On a fateful day after a long church program, Grace went back to pick her Bible from the women's hall. As she approached the door, she heard voices, low voices, whispering voices saying, "She prays well, but her womb is locked. Maybe there's something she's hiding. A pastor's wife with no child. Are you sure they God's servant?" Grace's legs refused to move. Her heart beat like a drum. She didn't confront anyone. She just turned and walked home, her head buzzing. That night, she didn't pray. She lay awake till morning, eyes open, heart heavy, and that was when frustration entered. Some weeks later, Grace was returning from the market when an old woman stopped her. The woman's voice was dry like Hamatan wind. "You are carrying a womb that is tired of waiting." Grace laughed nervously. "Mama, please, there is a river close to the market side," the woman interrupted. "This river gives children quickly." Grace felt something shift inside her because she had heard about the river before, but her faith condemned such practices, so she walked away fast. But that night she dreamed. She saw herself standing by a river. She saw babies crying from inside the water. She heard a voice whisper, "Come and take yours." She woke up sweating. Grace fought the thought. She fasted. She prayed harder. She told herself it was temptation, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw water. One early morning, while Pastor Daniel traveled for a minister's meeting, Grace wrapped her scarf tightly and followed the bush path to the river. The place was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects. Even the wind was still. The old woman was waiting. "You came," she said, smiling without joy. Grace's voice shook. "I just want to carry a child." "You will carry two," the woman replied. "What must I do?" Grace asked, already crossing a line her spirit was shouting against. The instructions were strange, spiritual, dangerous. Grace obeyed with trembling hands. When it was over, the woman said something Grace would later remember too well. Anything collected from water never forgets where it came from. Grace ran home crying, praying, begging God for forgiveness, but also hoping. She didn't tell her husband what she has done. She kept everything to herself. 3 months later, Grace missed her period, pregnant. Daniel shouted, he danced, he cried. When the scan showed twins, the church nearly scattered with praise. Grace smiled. She testified. But at night, she started dreaming again.